So thank you everybody for joining us for this afternoon's webinar entitled Embracing the Cloud with Prospect CRM and Unleashed. Now, there'll be a fair mixture of people on this webinar. So there's some Prospect customers, there's some Unleashed customers, and perhaps the majority are people who are considering moving to Unleashed or considering moving to Prospect in the cloud. And out of those, there's a whole mixture as well of people using different on-premise solutions, including Sage, Pegasus, Exchequer, etc. So we're going to be covering some fairly generic topics, but looking at some of those things in depth. So just to introduce myself, I am Andrew Ardron, or everybody calls me Andy. And I'm the CEO of Prospect Soft. Josh, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So my name's Josh. I'm one of the senior sales consultants here at Unleashed, who are a inventory management best-of-breed solution partnered with Prospect.
Jess.
Hi everyone, my name's Jess and I run the marketing here at Prospect Soft. Firstly, thanks for registering for this webinar and for joining live if you're here in real time. But just before we get stuck in with the content of this session, we'd just like to quickly get your thoughts now via our anonymous poll on what your top pain point is when using on-premise systems. So we asked you when you register for the session just to describe some of your key challenges that you're currently battling with when using those sort of archaic systems, which we will address in the Q&A at the end. But for this poll, there are 5 kind of key options we wanted to share with you. So I'm just going to pop those on screen now. So if you can just pop your vote in, that would be really great. So the options to choose from about the challenges that you face are migration to the cloud, connectivity between apps, lack of clarity on stock availability, it stalls your growth plans, and we've also got inefficient accounting on there. So I'll just give you a few more seconds to submit your answer. I can see those coming in. Thank you for those that are submitting those. What you feel is your biggest challenge when you're using on-premise systems like Sage, Pegasus, Exchequer, etc. So we'll take a look at those results towards the end of the webinar, just before the Q&A. Just giving you a couple more seconds to select one of those, which one you feel is the most problematic in your business. So just get your answer in now if you haven't already. Thanks to those that have voted. Nearly everyone has voted, that's great. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll now. Thanks very much for that. I will announce kind of which one ranked first and second, and we do encourage you to put questions in the Q&A function throughout this session if you do have any, because we can address those towards the end of the session. But otherwise, just sort of sit back and relax, enjoy the webinar. Worth me saying that actually we are recording this session, so we will send you a copy of the slides and the recording afterwards, which you can share with colleagues. Watch back bits that you've missed. So over to you, Josh.
Great, thanks, Jess. So yeah, on that poll, we've got those 5 kind of key challenges that people come up against using on-premise systems, and in no particular order. It would be interesting to see which order people rank these in at the end. We're going to cover these off. So the first one is just migration to cloud. That is a challenge in and of itself. Now, I've been in the SaaS market for a number of years, and definitely have found that far fewer businesses these days are talking about the benefits of the cloud or wondering what the benefits of the cloud are, but a surprising amount are still on on-premise solutions or on a sort of semi-cloud environment where you need to kind of remotely access an always-on machine somewhere. So the first thing to say is that it is available everywhere. And it's impossible not to talk about this sort of thing without mentioning COVID. The first couple of months of the pandemic, I found a quote from Satya, CEO of Microsoft, who said that they'd actually seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in those 2 months. And I think that rate has largely continued. It has been a large driver for cloud adoption, but I think if we kind of look post-COVID, touch wood, that will still continue to be the case. There are lots of businesses looking at remote working environments as the way forwards. And even if you're not, even before all of this, you had sales teams out on the road, you had third-party warehouses or warehouses up and down the country with people needing to see stock availability, pricing, purchase order information. So it's always going to be a challenge when you've got these teams kind of working all around the place. The second thing to talk about is maintenance and hosting. It's kind of a dry subject, but essentially, these things can be very expensive. Anybody on something like Opera or Sage will know this already. And a subscription with something like Unleashed or with Prospect will cover you for all the maintenance of servers at our side, and make sure that you get the best of breed security with the likes of AWS, Microsoft Azure, with full disaster recovery, all the relevant ISO certifications and all of that stuff that you no longer have to worry about is dealt with via your software provider. You are also getting a continually evolving system. And I can't stress how important this is. When you're buying into a system like Unleashed or Prospect, you're not just buying a system as it is right now. Business needs are continually evolving, and so systems will continue to evolve with them. We have a very democratized roadmap. I think both at Unleashed and at Prospect, we take customer feedback in, we rank that in terms of, who's requesting certain functionality, and the more requests we get, the more we can prioritize them. So it's very much a two-way conversation that you're having, much more so, I think, in the SaaS market than in those old on-premise solutions. And then the very last thing, just on migration to cloud, and this is where kind of we help to address the challenge of migrating, is managed onboarding services, managed implementation services. With Unleashed, certainly, you would have a single point of contact here. A lot of these SaaS businesses will do things over screen shares, over video calls. But the last 12 months have shown that that really doesn't need to slow anybody down in getting things done in business. We can get you set up in a matter of weeks. I wanted to just show a quick picture of our managed onboarding team. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the Prospect team, but this is the photo shoot that we did maybe 6 months before we all went into lockdown. The team is quite a bit bigger now, but I just wanted to kind of prove that, we're not all robots. You are going to see a human face. And some of these people are ex-operations. So, they really do know their stuff. So I think, tried and tested process. I think the benefits are there. I think most people understand it. But with a company like Unleashed, a company like Prospect, you are getting that, next level support in helping you with that migration. I'm going to pass over to you, Andrew.
Okay, thanks, Josh. So, connectivity between apps. I've been involved in integration between different solutions for a long time, both previously on-premise and now in the cloud. And something I can tell you for absolute certain is that on-premise integration is difficult to build. I was involved with that for over a decade, and there were real challenges in trying to get that working, but also in maintaining it, keeping it working, keeping it up and running. Restarting it when the server is restarted, getting it working again after a server upgrade, getting it working again after one of those solutions got upgraded. So Exchequer gets upgraded, and then the CRM needs to be upgraded at the same time, and all of those kind of things make that integration more difficult than it might have been. And we've seen, and the customers who've made the migration to the cloud have seen, that cloud APIs are a game changer. Integration in the cloud is just a completely different thing. And so it's no wonder that every cloud app, not just Unleashed and Prospect, but literally every cloud app that you can find will offer dozens or hundreds or even thousands of apps via an app store that are literally click and connect. You just choose the ones you want to integrate, put in the API keys, and the integration is up and running with no ongoing maintenance. These things just work over the internet in a reliable way. And as I say, it's not just applications like Prospect and Unleashed, but there are reporting tools like Power BI from Microsoft that you can connect to your application in seconds with a simple token to do particular reporting requirements. Zapier is a workflow tool, and Zapier connects more than 3,000 apps without a single line of code, and allow you to do any kind of workflow that you can imagine, whether it be when a new customer account is created, create a record in a Google sheet so that somebody else can analyze it. When the first order is taken for a customer, send somebody an email so that they can order a box of chocolates for the customer. I mean, literally any kind of workflow that you want can be implemented without any lines of code. And all of this is possible in a way that just wasn't on-premise because of these cloud APIs. And I'm not going to give you a kind of full demo here, but I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration of that kind of how that integration is set up and what it looks like. So just to start with, here is, I thought I'd start with Unleashed rather than Prospect. So here is Unleashed's integration store. And you can see that I can scroll around here. There's loads of different things. And some of these are to do with barcoding and warehousing and things. And down here is Prospect. So you could click on here if you're an Unleashed customer and start the process of integrating with Prospect CRM. And in order to make that integration work, it's pretty straightforward. All you need is your Unleashed API keys. So here you've got an app API ID and an API key. And this is such a long string. I think the number of potential combinations is getting on for billions here. So it's extremely secure. You have to have exactly the right combination of API ID and API key for this integration to work. But once you've got those, you just paste those, literally copy and paste them into Prospect. No software to install, nothing to manage, no gateway or service running on your server. You just paste these keys in here, and then everything is run through the cloud for you. As Josh said earlier, we're managing the security for you, we're managing the servers for you, all the processes, and this will start running that integration. What do you then get as a result of that integration? Well, if I just go to the dashboard very quickly, I'll talk a bit more about dashboard later on, but I'm just going to go and pick a customer here. So Casa Bellissimo is one of our demo customers. And if I open this customer record, you can see this. So this is a CRM record with activities and things like that in it. But we can also see that there's data that's come through from Unleashed about what the current spend is and whether it's going up and down. And then there's an analysis that's gone on. Obviously, other CRM information like contacts, multiple opportunities, customer service problems, quotes and orders, communications with emails and different kinds of documents. But here there's a page called Unleashed. So while we're in the CRM looking at the CRM customer record, we can also see data from Unleashed about this customer. So this is the Unleashed account, which is being surfaced in the CRM because the two are connected together. Furthermore, if I go to age receivables, what I'm actually seeing here is a live view from Xero of the account data in Xero. So we've integrated Prospect to Unleashed. Unleashed is integrated to Xero, and we've gone all the way through and traced that customer to the account in Xero so that we can see the actual transactions, the balances, and I can change that to just show me the outstanding invoices, etc. All in real time from Xero. And if I wanted to view this invoice in Xero, I could literally click on the open in Xero and it would open that. And similarly, if I'm looking at the Unleashed data, I can click on Open and Unleashed, and that will open that customer record in Unleashed, assuming I've got a license for both. And obviously, some people might have a license for one or the other or both. And I can then get into that record in Unleashed. And if I just go back again, I can, for instance, also see the individual sales transactions in Unleashed. And so if I wanted to look at this particular invoice here in Unleashed, again, I can just click Open in Unleashed. And all of that data is in the CRM not because it's been rekeyed, but it's automatically come in through that integration. If I just go back. So very quick demo of the integration there, just to give you an idea of how it's set up and how easy it is to set up and how it works. Josh.
So yeah, thanks very much for that, Andy. It's really powerful stuff, those integrations. I think it really makes all the difference. So the next section here is on lack of clarity on stock availability. And I think in the sort of pre-surveys that we sent out, this was one that was talked about quite a bit. So just wanted to give you a quick understanding of how Unleashed works with stock availability and just the kind of reports that you can pull on that information. But it does go without saying that, you know, within Prospect, because Prospect is pulling that info from Unleashed, you wouldn't necessarily need to go to these reports if you were just on the sales team. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But by far and away at Unleashed on our side, the biggest question that we get, the biggest challenge that we come up against is, I've got no way of knowing right now what is on hand, what's incoming, what's outgoing, and what do I need to reorder or resupply. And the information being passed between Unleashed and Prospect means that that's not just, you know, information that's served up relevantly to operations, it's also sales and marketing relevant information. I'm going to keep this slide really, really short. I'm going to jump straight into a demo of exactly that. So this is Unleashed. You'll already have seen our integration store in Andy's section there. But you can see on the dashboard, we've got some key kind of KPIs around stock on hand value, sales revenue. We've got a number of transactions here that need to be focused on, like low stock alerts. And for anybody that works with batch tracked products or short date products, a batch expiry report is really, really useful as well. If I was to jump onto the stock on hand value, be taken to our business intelligence tool. And this is a tool for looking, you know, very much at the macro trends in the business. If you're a managing director, COO, looking to find out where the current risks are, where the current bottlenecks are, this is really the place to go to. So if I look at my stock on hand value, and bearing in mind, this is a business that keeps short date stock. And although the value is not that high, I am still a bit concerned to have stock that is over 12 months old. So I could filter down into that. You know, let's just say that this is a category of risk for me. And I can see that that risk has been kind of building over time. So that's definitely something that we've not been dealing well with. Particularly in the Brighton warehouse, there is a problem with this. So I could filter down to this as well. And then I can see which particular products, you know, we really need to get on and shift. In this case, we have a list, we can export this. But yeah, this is the, you know, very much kind of top level analytical information. If you are a warehouse manager, you might be just interested in how many units of everything do I have on the shelf, what is allocated, what's available. Costs may or may not be important to you. And one thing that I always want to point out on these reports is that, you know, if you want us to remove some of these columns during onboarding and kind of customize this as per the individual user, we can do. But if I just open up the Bristol warehouse, I can see all of my stock, the sale days for that stock, what's currently coming in, what's on hand, all the allocation and all the availability. But what is that information actually good for? You know, it's all very well and good having some reports, but my favorite report in Unleashed is this reorder report. And this actually allows us to run transactions based on the inventory levels. So if I've got a minimum stock level here for everything and a current availability, then Unleashed will be automatically giving me a suggested replenishment quantity. So if you're just a business that buys and sells, you know, you might just want to raise some purchase orders for that. Take note of your pack sizes, take note of your minimum order quantities, and then confirm those. I'm just going to filter down to the Brighton warehouse, which I realized that I hadn't done. And you'll be able to see that kind of final check here before we go ahead and create POs. So if we're working with 20 different suppliers, all with different lead times, you know, Unleashed is going to sort all of that out for you. So in terms of, you know, the clarity of the stock availability, that is very important. But what people really are struggling with when they bring that up as a pain point is the, you know, the actions that come from it. It's too difficult to get to that. So I think Unleashed kind of goes a few steps further in that sense. I don't have time, sadly, to show you, how this looks in Prospect for the sales team. But suffice to say, that information is there. They can get at it without having to jump into this tool. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit more about divisional responsibilities in a bit. But for now, I will pass back over to you, Andrew.
Okay, thanks, Josh. So one of the things that a lot of people say about their on-premise systems is that they're holding them back, or that they're not supporting their growth plans, and that the business's growth is being stalled by those on-premise solutions. And I think that's a real thing with on-premise solutions. And I just want to do a very quick sort of comparison and explain why there's actually a really fundamental difference between attitude to helping you grow from on-premise to cloud, and how that all works. So one of the things that's true about on-premise solutions is that they're geographically focused. So for instance, Sage 50, if that's the product you're using, that is a UK product. Actually, there's a completely different, although they call it Sage 50, there's a completely different Sage 50 in America. If you're using Pegasus, that is a product that is sold in the UK and Ireland. It's not sold in America or in Singapore. So, these products are designed to be geographically focused, which then means in order to have a big enough market to support the research and development and the ongoing running of that business, Pegasus, Sage, whatever, they have to be functionally broad. They have to be generic or horizontal solutions appealing to lots of different types of businesses. Whereas if you look at the economic viability of a cloud solution, the cloud solutions are by their very nature geographically broad. It's on the internet, so anybody in the world can use that product. And I know that both we and Unleashed have customers in Singapore, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, the USA, Canada, you name it, and we're probably there. And that's just because those customers are all over the world, and they just can sign up for our solutions from anywhere. And what that means is, because we've got such a big geographical market, we can afford to be much more functionally focused and look at a kind of vertical type of business and really drill into what's important for that business while still having an economically viable big market to sell to. And obviously for Unleashed and Prospect, that really means wholesale and distribution, people selling physical products. And both of us are really focused on that. If your business is selling, services and servicing of equipment, then there'll be other vertical solutions in the cloud that are equally focused and allow you to run a really great business using software that's designed specifically for you, rather than a generic solution like Sage 50 or Pegasus. The other thing that certainly was a popular theme with on-premise solutions, 5-10 years ago, was that they constantly were striving to give efficient processes to users and take users off manual processes and put them on computer systems. In the cloud now, the cloud is so efficient. Some of the things that Josh talked about right at the beginning, that we all take efficiency as given. You just do get efficiency with cloud solutions and moving off manual processes onto the cloud. So we're actually much more focused on delivering business growth as the end result. And there's one really fundamental difference when it comes to trying to figure out how that growth can be delivered. And that is that in the cloud, we can use a big data-driven approach to identify what really works. We can develop a feature, and then we can see who's using that, who's not, who's struggling with it, where it's effective and where it's not. And we can use that data across thousands of users to identify how we can improve the software and really drive that growth. And just to put some numbers on that and demonstrate that I'm not just sort of giving theory here, but this really does happen in practice. Nobody will be surprised by this. In fact, you've probably seen this on the BBC. The UK economy shrank by 9.9% in 2020. And a recent report from Xero showed a pretty similar result for SMEs specifically. But in that same period, if you take customers who signed up and set up a Prospect CRM solution in the early days of the pandemic, during that same period, while the rest of the economy was getting a 9.9% reduction, those Prospect customers achieved a 38% growth. So that is a like-for-like comparison. So customers who signed up in the early first few months of the pandemic between March and July, comparing their financial year before that with their financial year after that. And we excluded startups who obviously have a virtually infinite growth. So this is just real businesses who had a full year before and a full year after the start of the pandemic. And that 38% growth clearly stands out against an average 9.9% reduction in the UK economy. So this growth difference is a real difference. And if you were to ask what underpins that, it's really a commitment by us to helping our customers to grow. And in actual fact, we have, Josh talked about an onboarding process. We have an onboarding process which is all aimed at helping you through this growth plan. And this growth plan is called our growth playbook. And it helps you start with low investment and early return on investment activities where you can get quick wins with your existing customers. And then we kind of build out in both directions with kind of more complicated things that take more planning and things that require you to build new relationships with new customers. And I'm not going to go into this entire grid and all the different things that we deliver, but we literally help every customer that signs up to step through this process from the bottom left to the top right, growing their business step by step all the way through. And the bottom left, as I say, really focuses on the existing customers and making sure that we're maximizing the lifetime value from those existing customers before we then build a quality pipeline of new business, knowing that as we turn that new business into existing customers, that we already know how to retain those customers. We already know how to increase the frequency of orders and increase the average value of those orders through upsell. And then we sort of just scale that up with a repeatable, scalable and profitable go-to-market program. And as I say, I really don't have time to take you through all of that, but I'm just going to give you one little snippet of what that means. So if I go back to the dashboard that I very briefly showed you, a couple of things here. So first of all, we're taking all of this complex data from Unleashed about who's bought what invoices went out, what the value of each invoice was, what the value of each order was. And we're not just bringing that in so that salespeople can see it. We are doing a whole load of sales analysis on that data to help your sales team to drive success. So in terms of retaining customers and ensuring that you get high frequency of orders, the AI growth engine is picking out customers that should have placed an order by now based on their previous pattern and have not yet done so, and giving you an indication of the value of those missing orders. So here I can see that Mary Berry Limited should, based on the AI engine's prediction, have placed an order on the 1st of May, but haven't done, and there's £292 worth of business that's missing there. Bill's Kitchen should have placed an order on the 13th of May and didn't do, and there's £1,200 worth of missing value there that we should just literally ring these customers today and ask them if they need to place an order, because either they're struggling with their business a little bit and could do with our help, or they keep meaning to place an order and haven't got round to it because they've been so busy and we can just collect that order, or they're talking to the competition and we're at risk of losing these customers. And this kind of colourful chart in the middle, which I won't go into a great deal of detail, this is a well-known way of segmenting customers called RFM, recency, frequency and monetary value. And it allows us to identify different segments of our customers so that we can target them with different marketing approaches, different sales approaches, and different messaging to drive up that the average lifetime value by increasing recency, increasing frequency, and increasing monetary value across our entire customer base. As I say, I really don't have time to take you into all of those things, but you can learn a lot more about our growth playbook and about RFM in particular if you go to go.prospectsoft.com/RFM. Okay, Josh, over to you.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, really great stuff. I love the AI there. That's really cool to see in action, especially with Mary Berry, one of the Unleashed customers. It's always fun to see them popping up in other systems. So the very last part here, we are coming into lands to get to the Q&A and the poll, is inefficient accounting. And you might be wondering why we're even talking about accounting, because, you know, Unleashed isn't an accounting system, Prospect isn't an accounting system. And that's sort of the point, really, of this section. You know, a best of breed setup does demand a best of breed accounting system. You know, if we look historically, I'm thinking particularly about Sage, actually, you know, a system built for accountants and used by sales and operations. If you went to learn accountancy, you would literally go and learn that on Sage in school, in college. And we're seeing now that there's a much more diverse number of apps out there that accountants are gravitating towards. So I'm not going to try and sell you the likes of Xero or QuickBooks Online, but your accountant may already be trying to do that. And there's a couple of reasons for that, I think. Increased efficiency across teams, and I would include your accountant, you know, even if you use an external firm, as part of your team, really, and also enhanced quality of support. I'm going to just jump straight onto the next slide and kind of talk about kind of why we think that is and how this kind of works. And the idea really is that, you know, with Sage, Pegasus, Opera, etc., you're really looking at an all-in-one solution that's aiming to cover several aspects of the business all at once. And the aim is that you'll use this solution first and foremost without connecting to anything else. And that sounds great, but in reality, it means that people in sales and marketing being served up far too much information that is only relevant to inventory and operations. And your accountant is getting way too much of all of this stuff. You know, speaking frankly, your accountant does not care about the RFM analysis of your customer base. They don't care about they may care about pipeline to some extent, but really they just want to get on with the bookkeeping. They just want to get on with payables, receivables, making sure that the general ledger is up to date. So that they can actually become more of a business consultant for you than a bookkeeper. And it's the businesses that are kind of moving towards that are able to grow and able to have the kind of growth plans that Prospect supports you on. So, you know, that's kind of the big crux of this section, really, is that Xero isn't intended to handle, you know, complex inventory management on its own, doesn't support functionality like multiple warehouses, pricing strategies, bills of materials. And Unleashed isn't really intended to handle your sales and marketing efforts to the same extent that Prospect is. I'm talking about things like MailChimp campaigns, marketing automation, chasing missing orders, handling pipeline, upselling customers. You know, I'm not going to try and build a CRM. Andy's not going to try and build a manufacturing tool. Xero are not going to try and do either of those. You know, we all stick to what we do best and work with each other to give you a complete solution. And I think that kind of sums up the whole kind of 5 points in this, really. And that's the big difference between best of breed and on-premise. But it's not just important for you as a business owner or an operations director or a sales director. It's just as important for your accountant. And I think that is probably just as important in a consideration in a migration to the cloud. So I think that covers us for the 5 points, but I just wanted to pull up a couple of proof points quickly here. And I won't read through this entire quote. This is from a customer of both Unleashed, Prospect, and of Xero, actually, Evolution Packaging Products. And I think the really important thing is in the second paragraph there, that since moving to integrated cloud apps, you know, they've seen a huge increase in efficiency. They're able to reduce or increase the number of users during the COVID pandemic when people were on furlough and so on. And as they've said at the bottom there, it doesn't matter where in the world the staff are, they can access all at the same time. Another much shorter quote over here from another customer, which is Seven Brothers Brewery. And Kit specifically, I like this, that he says that his reporting was keeping him up at night. And, you know, hopefully the reporting, the insights that we've shown you with all the different systems talking to each other and serving up the most relevant information will show you that, you know, you really don't need to be up at night crunching numbers. You can just get on with your job the way that you know how to do it, and let the software take care of all of that stuff for you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand back over to Jess now for the poll results.
Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Andy, for that really insightful stuff. Just going to share the results of the poll now on screen. Quite interesting and kind of unsurprising, actually, that migration to the cloud has come up the top there. And I think that ties into some of the questions. I'm going to get straight onto the questions, if that's all right, guys. So I'll just run through some of the comments. So first one here, a couple of Prospect CRM customers asking this question, actually, so it might be one for Andy. They're using, between them, various on-premise systems, a couple of them using Sage and one or two using Pegasus there. And they're just asking, you know, how does the migration work and how much information can we retain from Sage 50 and Pegasus when we migrate over to something like Xero and Prospect and Unleashed?
Okay, thanks, Jess. So yeah, I'll take this question. So just first of all, there may be some customers on this who are using our older on-premise version of Prospect CRM. So just if that's you and you're thinking about moving to the cloud version of Prospect CRM, all of your data will migrate 100%. So you won't lose any of that data. If you're thinking about, so if you're already on Prospect CRM and you're looking to move from Sage to Unleashed or something like that, then the really nice thing is that all of the history that's already in Prospect for your sales team to use, all of that is retained. So you can do a reasonably straightforward migration. And actually, I know that one of those quotes, James Turton, VPP, went through this. He went from Pegasus to Unleashed and Xero. And so basically you can set up Unleashed with just opening balances for you can import your customers, import your products, set them up with opening balances nice and easily. But all of the history of what everybody's bought in the past is automatically retained in your Prospect solution. And I know that if you want a bit more analysis in Unleashed, some of that history can also be uploaded to the Unleashed BI tool to give you that historical analysis without making a mess of your actual Unleashed day-to-day processing with you don't have to upload 7 years of history of transactions into Unleashed. So basically, you get to retain all of the critical data of which customers bought what product at what price, when, etc.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So this one's cropped up quite a bit, both on the pre-event form and also live in the Q&A today. So probably for Josh, this one to speak a bit on, which is kind of the key challenges that businesses face when they're using these on-premise systems is things like stock management, effective stock holding and stock replenishment forecasting. And I think that ties in kind of nicely into what you were saying, Josh, about why best of breed systems are just going to be superior at their function of focus, which obviously in an Unleashed case is inventory. So maybe just talk a bit about how Unleashed can handle those sort of aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think it's not just related to the stock availability point. It is, you know, what we were talking about earlier in the webinar as well. And I just sort of mentioned it briefly that, you know, a lot of businesses are working with external warehouses, with multiple warehouses, sometimes third-party manufacturing. I mean, that is very, very common, where manufacturers just have no view over that that process. So, you know, and I might be speaking for whoever asked this question, but, you know, there are often situations described to us where, you know, my warehouse tells me every day what's been shipped. They send me a spreadsheet. I then, you know, get that into my spreadsheet and I figure out, you know, what that means for my stock value and my cost of goods sold. And then I send them all the orders for the day the next day. And then they tell me, you know, it's kind of manic, really, isn't it? That you've got an on-premise solution with external forces kind of wanting to have an impact on the data sets in there. So I think, you know, just it is about best of breed because, you know, an on-premise solution like Pegasus Opera or Sage will have all of that kind of clutter, that noise around it from an accounting perspective. And you certainly do want to get away from that. But I think the challenges are often a lot to do with just, that it's not available everywhere, that all of these people outside selling on the road, working in multiple warehouses, aren't getting that direct feed into the central database, so that you don't have that single pane of view. And I think that's something that, Unleashed really helps with. And then not to speak for Andy, obviously, but if you have all of that good data coming into Unleashed, then the sales team are fed up with, sorry, not fed up, but they are fed the most relevant sales insights and stock levels as well. So yeah, I think it's certainly a challenge that we come across a lot, and it's certainly one that we can help with. So give us a call, let us know what your particular situation is. Might have completely missed the mark on that one, but
Yeah, thank you.
I think that idea that you could know what stock you've got, your third party warehouse people could be accessing the same data, and your salespeople at home or on the road are also accessing the same stock data. That is a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say missing the mark, I just mean I might have not accurately described your particular challenges, whoever it is that asked that question. So let us know what they are, and we'll go through the solutions.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. That's great. Just a couple more to go through. So a specific one about just how expensive on-premise systems can get, where you get charged for everything that's over standards. And I know that probably Andy and Josh here can chip in on this one, saying, definitely with Prospect CRM and Unleashed, they have really transparent pricing. There's no hidden costs to catch people out. That's just not the way we structure our pricing. So I don't know if you want to talk about that. But...
Yeah, well, I was going to add actually that, Jess, you and I both know that obviously a lot of Sage partners, Pegasus partners, Exchequer partners actually charge for installing upgrades, and quite often they're very busy, in that kind of April period where everybody's upgrading payroll, accounting software, etc., or the recent tax digital requirements that there were chargeable extras from virtually all of the on-premise solutions, as well as an installation cost and a consultancy cost and everything. And if you were on Xero, that was free of charge, all included, with no consultancy cost or installation cost. And we ourselves, and I know Unleashed release regular versions, but we release a new version every 3 weeks, and nobody is charged for upgrade of that. In fact, we don't even charge ourselves for it. It is all automated. We release a new version and it just starts rolling out to customers automatically over the following couple of weeks.
Definitely, that's great. And sorry, I'm just going to go one more just on here, which is just a quite specific one. Again, maybe for Josh, we're a chemical manufacturing company, and full batch traceability would be a must for any cloud-based system we adopted. So I think that's
That's not for me.
That's a big thumbs up from me. I've personally worked with quite a few chemical companies actually, and one of the demo accounts that I use is not chemicals but e-liquids, with batch traceability, blending of liquids, producing those blends and putting those into different sized bottles, multiple locations. We're very well versed in that industry and those particular requirements. So yeah, it sounds like a good fit.
Brilliant. And then just one final one. So this person's just touched on the point about integration and kind of connectivity of apps here, just saying that their on-premise software has meant that they've been unable so far to connect a CRM, accounts package and website all linked together that shares the same database. So hopefully the presentation today will just show you that is possible.
Yeah, and I mean, we probably should have mentioned e-commerce while we were in the middle of that side of it, because while you can have an on-premise CRM and an on-premise accounting system, and with a bit of hard work you can integrate them, that makes it really hard for your field sales team to access any of that. As Josh said earlier, makes it hard for your third-party warehouse to access any of that. But of course, your e-commerce site definitely is not going to be on-premise. And connecting cloud e-commerce to on-premise accounts and on-premise CRM is just, is way harder than it should be. Whereas if it's all in the cloud, that integration is just much easier to achieve.
Thanks very much for those who put questions in. That's great. And for those of you that have listened to this, that just want to learn a bit more about Prospect or Unleashed, you can book a demo or a chat just to see how these best of breed systems do work in action. If you are already using Prospect, then you can just take a free trial of Unleashed, or vice versa. If you're using Unleashed, you can take a free trial of Prospect and get it integrated even in the free trial period to see your Unleashed data coming through. So there's a couple of links on screen there, but these will be shared in the follow-up email. So yeah, thanks again everyone for watching, and to our presenters Andy and Josh. Cheers.
Thanks, Jess, and thank you everybody for attending today.
Yeah, thank you everybody.
Thanks guys.
Have a good day.
Okay, have a good afternoon. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.